A lot of you know Ash Buckles, kind of an icon too in this world. Ash, his interests are in SEO, blogging, web development, art, and social media. He's self-employed for a long time, and then he recently went back to work at Access 41.
Well, if you're all still awake.
Hey now.
No.
Okay.
Just I'm at the end of the table. My name is Ash Buckles. It's no surprise I love Twitter. I wouldn't be sitting here having this discussion if it weren't. One of the greatest ways I think that I've been able to connect with people and kind of grow my own personal network is through Twitter. I hadn't really networked much until about 2 years ago. I knew kind of how to do it. I just wasn't doing it. And Twitter was the first kind of tool that helped me kind of grab onto that and immediately start making connections with people that either I had met or people that they knew. And it was just a kind of a way to step into to building some relationships. I happen to be one of those people who loves people's lives. I find them very interesting. Not every tweet is interesting, but in general, I like to follow feeds, and I like to know where you're traveling or what you're planning, what you're doing for work. If you're doing any testing, I love to chime in if I have an opinion about something. And for me, that's just, I guess, just part of the weirdness about me, something I enjoy. I currently read more links from Twitter than from anywhere else. However, people who feed link after link after link and are not personable on Twitter, I unfollow immediately. I'm probably not alone in that, but that's just something that I don't stand for anymore. And the reason is I don't find any feeds that are strictly just an RSS feed directly through Twitter or link after link after link to be of any valuable. That doesn't mean that the links aren't valuable, but I can usually find those from someone else within my network, so I don't stay following. One thing that I've used Twitter for as well is to kind of promote either when I'm speaking or to kind of talk about what I'm doing within my work. I spoke at WordCamp a couple of months ago, and I had mentioned that if you don't have a strategy, you shouldn't be blogging, something to that effect. And I got called to the carpet for that a couple of times. And in fact, tonight I just got another tweet from DMX. You probably have seen it if you're following DMX. He says, "Tell Ash Buckles not to say something like, don't Twitter unless you have a reason." So, the back channel can be fun. Very unlike Deuce, give her the credit, I was fired and hired from Twitter. So the firing was a long time coming. It wasn't a true firing, but I lost a contract. Best thing that ever happened to me. The hiring also was one of the best things that ever happened to me, and that happened because of my networking, because of Tom Allen, because he knew people that I didn't know right here in the city, in the valley. And I owe you lunch. And so for me, it's been a great way to, just integrate into my life and my work and everything that I do. One of the other great accomplishments with Twitter is that I got my wife on Twitter. And so now she knows what I'm actually doing, when I'll be home, if there's traffic, and so forth. Which, something you'll learn about me very quickly is that if I've tweeted it and you ask me the same question, I will typically sigh. And I may still answer you, but if I've tweeted it, I really don't want to say it again. Because to me, it's off my chest and I'm on to something else. So maybe that's Twitter addict, I don't know. Something that kind of came to my attention the other day that was interesting when I was out to dinner with Jesse Stay and Marina Martin. There's still that trust factor issue when you get to, who are these people? What are these feeds on Twitter? Who do I trust? How do I know who to trust? And there are some things that we can kind of find that help us. Who are they following? How many are they following versus following them? What are they saying? It's pretty apparent within the first page of their Twitter account whether or not they're valuable or have anything to offer. Occasionally I'll go to page 2 or page 3 just to kind of make sure of that, but trust can be fairly easily found by just kind of poking around for a moment. What I've always found is easier, just follow everyone that you come across, follow anyone you meet, and if you find that you don't like them, leave them later. It's easy enough to do. You can do it from your mobile, whatever the case. Another thing that came up at dinner was that a lot of people on Twitter are there strictly for monetary reasons. And that kind of goes back to the trust factor a little bit, but it brings up the question, what's really wrong with having a monetary reason to be on Twitter? And there's really no wrong part about that. What Twitter should be more about, though, are the people. And through that, money will follow. And this has been taught from Seth Godin and others for years. So if you're out there, you want to make money, and you want to use Twitter to do it, it's absolutely possible, it's absolutely fine, but think about your people first. Guy Kawasaki's been mentioned a couple times too. I don't follow him. I find his feed to be a little too strong, not enough personalization. So be it. Whatever. He's got thousands of followers. He doesn't need me. My question, though, is much like direct email, is Twitter going to come to that point where we have thousands of followers but nobody's listening anymore? And it's not that people don't want to leave you, because they might want to DM you every once in a while and they have to be following and so forth. And it's not that, sometimes it's a matter of not wanting to let people know you're not interested in following anymore, but you're following, but maybe you're just not listening. Through services like TweetDeck, you can create groups and set up your channel, listen to the people you want to listen to, follow everyone else, and that can be good and bad depending on what side of that channel you're on. So again, it's about the people. You want to garner those relationships and really make that work for you from that standpoint. TweetDeck is a software that I use. I love it. There's really not a whole lot more to say than that. Go try it out. You may as well. It's free. Twitter search is something I use every single day. I use it probably about 70% as much as I use Google. Maybe that's the field I'm in. Maybe it's what I'm looking for. Maybe it's what I'm researching. But I find Twitter search to be extremely valuable. However, for me, doing long tail searches and trying to find correlation between this search term and other words is what I found to be far more valuable, because if I'm looking up something general like motorcycles, I'm going to get everything. If I'm looking up something about motorcycles and repair, I might start finding people who are in that field, or someone who's just been through a motorcycle repair. So adding those modifying keywords can be very helpful. You can also create strings and then additional keywords, and I found that to be very, very helpful in Twitter search. And I find that every Twitter app has enough value to at least give it a try. That doesn't mean that all of them are valuable to stick with, but I find that they're all worth checking out. The one thing that Twitter community has done very, very well by kind of coming together and gelling is extending what Twitter is into several other areas, additional media capabilities and so forth. So that's how I use Twitter and why I love Twitter so much. And I believe that's the end of my cards.